Now, as Kenya celebrate Mazingira Holiday, KUTV's Anyango Sylvia engage with Mary Owino, who is a landscape architect and communication lead at the Green Generation Initiative, as she sheds light into ongoing efforts to continue greening the planet. Take a look.
Hello there, my name is Anyango Sylvia, and today, being Mazingira Day, I am joined by Mary Owino from GGI, that is Green Generation Initiative, and she's going to give us insights, or she's going to tell us more on how the organization involves the young generation in greening the next generation. I know there's a lot of generation in greening, but just the baseline. She's going to tell us how the organization involves the young people in ensuring that the next generation is a generation of sustainability in terms of food security and good climate. Mary, please introduce yourself.
I think you've already introduced us. You've already introduced me, but as she said, I'm Mary Owino. I work at Green Generation Initiative as the communications lead there. And I'm also very much involved in field activities and everything that GGI involves. Yeah, so yeah, that's
from your social media and all the posting, I'm meant to understand that GGI generally involves the young generation, like going from school to school and generally teaching them on how to green the generation. How has it been for you, this journey? You know, most people think that climate is a very huge conversation. So how do you make it easy for the young kids?
Okay, so as you've mentioned, GGI is a youth-led organization that's combating climate change across the country. And we do this mainly by doing tree planting and tree growing in schools across different counties. So we work a lot with young kids. Think of young kids in grade 1, grade 2, or even lower, and also going to the youths. So we cut across a big age gap because most of our volunteers are also university students. So your question was on how we are able to break down the whole concept of climate change for young people. So, of course, when we are talking to kids who have not even started primary school, they're probably in it's kindergarten, you won't use such big words. So for them, they know that they're planting trees. They are part of the process. So we teach them how to plant a tree, how to recycle the paper that holds that seedlings. That's usually our main idea during our events. Then, of course, at least our curriculum educates kids on the importance of trees. So we usually do a recap. So you just ask them what's the importance of trees, and they usually have the right answers. So for us, it's just to echo it. Then once a kid holds a tree seedling in their hand, we tell them they know which tree it is, and they know where they've planted it. And we've actually seen schools where they've inculcated the culture of children owning their tree. Tree, so they take care of it on a daily basis. So that's how we break it down to them. Of course, for a kid, they probably won't grasp it's climate change, but they know they have a tree that they're taking care of. They're watering it every single evening before going home. So that's how we're able to break it down.
So it takes so many years for a single tree to grow. And this child may not be in that school for that long. So what kind of trees majorly do you focus on?
So we've done fruit trees and indigenous trees. As we go into schools, the children are involved to take care of their trees. But remember, we still have the school administration that will still be long-serving compared to the students. So we usually involve the head teacher and the environmental teachers also. So they're the ones who would delegate to certain trees to different kids. So we do, for a tree, it needs a lot of attention when it's at the baby stage, when you've just planted it. And you're looking into 3-4 months before it's able to do its own thing on its own. Trees are very powerful. So that's what we do. But we do mainly indigenous trees and also fruit trees, so that schools are able to get some fruits at the end of the day or after a few years. So yeah, we mainly do fruit trees and indigenous species.
And in when you're moving through the edge, like in campuses and in high schools, how do you get to involve, what criteria do you use in selecting that there is this group of people who are supposed to be involved? Is it only for the environmental students, or it's just a call to every youth in campus?
Yes, it is. If you wish to volunteer, then it's possible for that to happen. But I'll admit that we've mostly been going through the environmental clubs in different schools, because our assumption is the students who are passionate about environmental issues are most likely to join the club. So most of the time we would source for volunteers or people who are willing to help us out from specific eco clubs or environmental organizations within the schools.
How responsive are these groups, like schools and maybe primary school, their teachers, high school, and also campus students? How responsive are they to the initiative, like the urge to grow trees?
Maybe to start with primary schools and secondary schools. As you know, the government, in collaboration, of course, with the president, there's a target that we're trying to hit as a country. And two or 3 years ago, schools were tasked with planting trees in their open spaces. So you find that most schools have a target to hit. That target that has been given either by the county government or the environmental department of a county government. So most of them actually have space that has been set out for tree planting in an effort to meet the national targets. So when we go into schools, they're actually very receptive, because we are the ones, we donate the seedlings, and at least we are able to capacity build with the children. So most of the times we find that we take the load off the schools back, because we come in with the seedlings and we are also able to teach kids how to go about the tree planting process. Now their role comes in the tree growing, because they're the ones who will stay in the school. So most likely when we are not there, they're the ones who will come on a daily basis to make sure that the trees are growing. For campus students, we've also had really nice reception in terms of getting volunteers for events. We never lack volunteers, especially from Kenyatta University. Recently, we've had a good number of volunteers who helped us last week, so that also hasn't been an issue. So young people are actually receptive to the whole climate change and now tree planting situation.
Now that you mentioned the government, does the government give funding for just organizations, or it's something that anyone can benefit from?
In terms of funding?
In terms of funding, yeah.
So I'll probably speak for GGI specifically. For us, we mostly target, in terms of sponsorships and donors, we target private entities, mostly companies that have CSR, corporate social responsibility funding or budgets at the beginning of the year. So most of them, you find that they have a target to achieve in terms of what they've done for community or for climate change or anything for the greater good of the society. So those are usually our main targets. We've been able to work with banks mostly, and also other organizations in different sectors. So that has been our main source of funding. So yeah, I may not speak to the government issue accurately, yeah.
Okay. Now, is GGI planning on involving individuals who are out of education institutions? Like, for example, you see this empowering or making climate action measures be known cannot only be achieved by the young children. I mean, climate is big. It goes all around, from carbon emissions and all that. So generally, the people who are contributing to climate destructions most of them are not even those kids, so they are like coming in to solve problems they didn't create. So are you like, is the organization planning like involving people who are not in institutions, like those, someone at the village, at the marginalized position, someone who has no idea that just by burning things around that is contributing to climate change? Are you planning in the future maybe to involve them in the initiative?
We'd really much like to. It's part of our plans, future plans, the near future plans, in terms of involving communities and not just schools. But then we also appreciate the fact that when you impact a school, you've also impacted the nearby community. So that's something we definitely want to work on. We've seen models that are working in different counties, where when a kid plants a tree in the school, they also take another seedling home, and now they go plant it in their homes. And this works especially for tightly knit communities. Maybe in the village, this is not something you're likely to succeed with in Nairobi, because maybe you might even lack the tree planting space for the kids. So for us, mostly as we go into counties that are not specifically cities, we think that's something we'd quickly adapt. If we are going into communities where farming is a major part, so it means the community and family members do have farms where a tree would grow. So this is me just putting into context our situation. In Nairobi, it's kind of hard to do that because kids come from all over the place, and I'm not sure whether most kids would have that space too. But then that's how we typically impact the community. Also collaborations, we do have a number of collaborations, maybe not even particularly school institutions. Like recently we've collaborated with the county government of Nyandarua. As I mentioned, we've also worked with financial institutions. So that's just us increasing our reach, and I'm sure that we are going to have more collaborations in the near future.
Let's talk about that collaboration. Now, mazingira is a big word. It goes from littering to cleanliness and rivers, lakes, and all that. So GGI mainly focuses on tree planting. Is there an avenue where you can also include, where you're partnering with institutions like NEMA to give maybe education to the public and all that on how to preserve the environment, not just by planting trees, but also including other measures of preserving the environment?
Yes, that's something we definitely want to do. And now, of course, there are many channels of doing it, NEMA being one of them. But just maybe, even just as a recap of a conversation we recently had with the county government of Nyandarua, it opened up our eyes to so many possibilities of impacting climate change in a positive way besides planting trees. So a whole conversation of biogas and recycling of waste and that kind of situation. So I can say confidently that looking forward as GGI, we are going to expand further than tree growing, because climate change is a big bubble, and we can all tap into different things, but tree planting was a good way to start also, and a good way for us to record our progress and to know how much further we can go. So yeah, we look forward to collaborations with NEMA and all other organizations to capacity build and also funding.
Do you think the government is doing enough in terms of climate action, like in terms of funding, education, like the energy put in climate action? Do you think the government is doing enough?
That's a tough question, because enough is relative to different people. I might say they are not, another person might say they are. Well, what I'd say is it can do better. Our government definitely can do better in terms of making sure that things that have been stated in our climate change plans are actually being implemented. on the ground. Maybe that's the part where we are missing out a bit, because it goes further than allocating funds. It goes further than creating commissions and departments. There's a lot of work that has to be done. There's the actual doing. So maybe that's where there's great room for improvement, actually. So maybe
in terms of maybe if they are giving a plan, they like follow it up to the latter and ensure it's implemented.
It's not just a plan that's amazing on the first few days. We have to look after 2-3 years. Did we clean up the waste? Did the trees thrive? That's kind of conversation.
Okay, just coming back to GGI, everything that we are doing right now in this century, we look at sustainability of it. So as GGI, what keeps you inspired to, or what is it that you do to ensure that what you're doing is sustainable, like it will be impactful even in the next 100 years?
What we do to ensure there's sustainability. So of course with tree planting, we are thinking long term. And for us, it's not just tree planting, it's tree growing. So we have systems in place where we know if we are going to plant this certain number of seedlings in this specific school, how do we check up every other month to see how they're doing, and we also get ratings in terms of survival rates. So for us, that's a big part on sustainability, so that we're not just throwing seedlings in different schools, but we are also able to go back and see, or rather even have volunteers who keep going back to the schools to see whether it's a sustainable way of going about things. So that's our main inspiration, the fact that you might walk into a dry school right now and kids do not even have a place to have lunch under a tree. And then when we go back 4-5 years down the line, there's a place of shade. That's what impact and sustainability means for us. Yes.
There are so many institutions, not just institutions, organizations, NGOs who are focused on climate. Some of them, they're actually doing it to get some of them are planting trees to get the carbon credit fund from the government. Some of them are doing it, most of them are doing it for business. So what makes GGI stand out?
For business. But I'd say right from our founder, Liz Wadhuti, who is very passionate she has been passionate about the environment since she was 7 years old. We are very driven towards seeing impact, especially among kids. That is what warms our hearts every single time we get into a school and just try to understand how, or rather educate kids on how to go about tree planting. For us, it's us seeing a generation of people that are environmentally conscious. That's what feeds us every single day and drives our passion. I'd say that's what makes it different. Once we walk into a school, we are at our very most authentic selves. I don't even have to have climate change kind of English the whole time, because now you just get in and flow with the kids, help them plant a tree, educate them on what it is. Does not even matter whether you'll be using Kiswahili or English, but it's the authenticity of our events and the passion to even follow up on whether your project is still doing well. That's what makes GGI different.
Okay, now as we are trying to conclude, I was trying to get this to ask you about GGI and your passion. So there is something about passion that sometimes passion ends according to the number of challenges that you encounter. What would you consider to be the biggest challenge in the whole of this journey?
I'd say before it was, since it's mostly tree planting, the survival rate of the trees, because when you go into a school and you do tree planting and you find that the school administration was not really part and parcel of the project, then they're not likely to take care of the trees after. that was mostly the biggest challenge, and of course also funding. But then those are things we are still in progress and working through, in terms of making sure that, as I mentioned, not just tree planting, we are able to have our own people go into schools and also engage with the administration on how to grow the trees. And of course, them having a target that they have to hit has also helped us because at least a school would be more involved in seeing their trees grow. Then of course funding. The bigger the projects you're doing, the more funding you need. So with every amount that you get, you're thinking big, and you're always getting bigger, which I think is the best way to go. So maybe those have been the challenges, but they are not challenges that have made us stagnate. It's things that we are working through as an organization.
What is the biggest achievement?
I'd say there's rigorous tree planting that happened last year in Nyeri, and we have like a 97% rate of survival of trees. So that are trees that literally look like gardens. There are schools that look like gardens once you walk in. So as I mentioned, for us it's just that satisfaction of us being able to create spaces that are safe for children. So yeah, that has been among many other achievements. Yeah.
Okay, now as we conclude, all factors considered, including funding, sustainability, policy making, campaigns, and education to the public, what would you wish, what would you want to be done differently to push for this climate action agenda?
What I'd want to be done differently is for more people to be involved, not even more people, like every single person should take environmental awareness as part and parcel of what they do. Because once it's at the back of your mind, you think differently about how your small actions impacts the environment. So maybe if I was to become God for a day and turn everything to my how I'd want it, then that's one thing I'd want most people to do differently, because it's definitely harder when it's only few people that are concerned with this specific issue. Yet when the environment deteriorates, everyone feels a pinch of it. Yeah.
It's all right. It's definitely harder when it's done by a few people, but when the whole community stands together, we can make our environment better. That was Mary Owino from GGI. Thank you so much for making time. And as we mark this Mazingira Day, make sure you plant a tree and grow the tree, not just plant the tree, grow the tree. Thank you.